All right, we're getting into a conversation of where are we going? If you look at the trends of our conversation this morning, certain things have been happening in certain ways. And many are crying, many are not so happy, many are saying, well, look, things are looking up. Well, let's get a few more opinions and let's have a conversation about where it ought to go. And a friend of ours is in the hot seat this morning. Jeremiah Kioni is the Secretary General of the Jubilee Party, and he's looking resplendent in red. Jeremiah, good morning.
Red always in Jubilee. Morning to you.
Oh, I like the hat.
Yeah, thank you. Asante sana.
How have you been?
Well, okay. Looking for fertilizer.
I have to warn you. I'm not sure that if you split open a fertilizer bag, that what you would find inside would be fertilizer.
I was busy looking for fertilizer to plant, like every other Kenyan.
Yeah.
So struggling and hoping to make sense of many things.
Well,
yes.
Let's see.
And that's why I'm happy to come and hear the day's proverb.
You have done it just right, because the day's proverb is here.
Okay.
Our proverbs for this week come from the Republic of, people call it Cape Verde. I prefer to call it Cape Verde. Yes.
Cape Verde.
Well, yes.
Okay.
In Portuguese, it's Cabo Verde. Okay.
All right.
The proverb: rats don't dance in the cat's doorway.
Yes, a mistake we committed.
Why do you say that?
A mistake we committed. Yes. And especially in Mount Kenya. We went dancing in the cat's doorway, and now kimeturamba. like they say, kimeturamba. Kumenyitana.
Are you saying that the situation that the
you have to avoid, you have to avoid the cat all the time.
But let me tell you, at the time that people were dancing, as you say, metaphorically in front of the cat's doorway, did they know it was a cat's doorway? And did they know that they were also rats?
I think there was the belief that one, you are not the rat. And we kept complaining and saying, be very careful. And again, the cat had a lot of water on itself, so it may have looked like the rat also. Yes. We say that the lion ikinyeshewa, lakini saa hii paka ilikuwa imemwagilia maji, ilikuwa inakaa kama like kana panya yenyewe. And that is where we are, and it is actually a very sad situation. Extremely sad.
So things sometimes would appear to look a certain way, but they are not.
Yes.
Forcing you to make a decision sometimes. Yes. And what you're saying is that is what the country looks like today.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's where we are. And not by accident, but because somebody planned it that way.
Okay, SJ, I'm not even going to ask you to look into crystal ball, because crystal ball would assume that then you're looking at something that would be coming into the future. I'll give you a little bit of a story. Those who believe in traditional medicine, they would sometimes blow into the dust on the ground, and whatever else, concoctions that they would put together, they would then be able to see the real situation in the earth. That's what they would say, that the earth has a way of giving the real situation. And I guess that's where these things that we say today, things on the ground are actually very, very different. And that it's the things on the ground that are the reality. And that's what these traditional healers, whatever you want to call them, they would go to the earth and they would mix whatever they would mix on the ground, and it would be the ground that would show them exactly what is happening. Then they would now be able to go to CT and say, look, the ground has told me that this is what is happening, and then this is what you ought to do. Right? And it never made sense to me until now. I started to hear growing up. Then I realized, okay, that's exactly what they are doing. So now, SG, as you look at the ground, and as possible as it would be for you to be apolitical, what is it? What's going on right now?
I think one of the other things is that on top, even as we get to the gist of this discussion, you must always avoid, getting your eyes off the ball. Another short story of the person I'm named after, my grandfather, would out of about very many people who were born, he's like the only one who seemed to have survived those days. And they kept consulting the witch doctor. And every time a child would die, they would go to a witch doctor. So he then, and this is a story he told us, he then decided to ensure that he keeps his eyes on the witch doctor. And all through where he started to the end, and you keep jumping all over, blah, 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 and he realized that the guy picked some bones from one corner, plays around, then plants them at another corner. Then he will say, the answer is in that corner. So out of that, then he said, there must be a better way of looking at things. It's actually his story. That is what influenced him to now thinking about education and Christianity. And at a place called Karunaini he is, and that place called the Hororo, he is among the very first people who took on education and took on Christianity, started educating girls, and many things that we are proud of today. Getting, if your eyes leave the ball, you get where we are today. As a country, we let our eyes go wandering to other places, and we missed the steps that were being done by some characters who actually qualify for witch doctors. Where the things that we are going through today are very strange things. I will need to check this after I leave this place, but the information I get on the fertilizer, which I talked about, is that the first thing that we did after 2022 elections was when some people had control and could give instructions and directives. The first thing we did is that we seem to have lowered the quality, the standard of the quality of the fertilizer that comes into the country. During Kibaki's and Uhuru's time, there was a ban of importation of fertilizer from Morocco because it did not meet the standard that we wanted as a country. I am told, and I'll check this fact, that is one of the things that was quickly adjusted. So we lowered the standards, our standards, to accommodate the Moroccan fertilizer, which leaves our soils very acidic after you have used it. We've gone even a step further, and now we are using poop from several animals and mixing it to now become the Kenyan kind of fertilizer. And it is so bad. I was in Nyahururu, and for the first time in my life in Nyahururu, I have never seen Kenyans queuing at KFA for fertilizer, queuing for the seed maize. It's not available. The seeds are not available for planting.
They're not available.
They are not available. And rains come and go. So you must plant when the rains have come. So that kind of frustration is, we are in all those kind of difficulties. Look at it now. We talked about the NHIF when I was here. We talked about the corrupting health sector. Today, I don't know which are the hospitals that you can present your NHIF card. We've been told that we are migrating from one system to another. But you need, I don't know whether grace period or whatever it is they are calling it. How are Kenyans surviving? How did they expect Kenyans to go through with the medical issues?
They're not surviving at all.
Not at all. I have a message from one of the principals from Nyandarua who says we now need to raise some 2 million shillings because Edu Afia, which was available for our children,
It's not working.
It's not working. It's not there anymore. So we are again back to those harambes.
Yes.
We are back to those populist things, because since you can go to very many harambes, then you become the leader, and you are the one who can say. So we missed it by just getting our eyes off the ball. And the witchcraft fellas were all over here jumping, giving us funny things. Now they are in control. And I can tell you, like Muruka would say, we really are in the hands of gangsters. I tell you, and I have no reason to think otherwise. And it is for that reason that we must organize ourselves differently if we want to achieve different results come the next opportunity that will be available to choose leaders.
How does one know who will actually do the right thing? This is interesting, Jeremiah, because on Monday, and it's played in my mind very clearly, and as we do here, we're trying to have these conversations around things that make sense. We don't want to be aspirational. We want to be present. We don't want to only be idealistic. We want to be real. And we asked ourselves and we said, how then do we make sure that we are involved in participatory governance, in getting it right? That it is not that anybody who might see you today says, well, Kioni is speaking as somebody who maybe wanted to be in government. He's speaking that way because he's not. Would he be singing the same song if he was on the other side? How?
One is that as a country, I think we now have tried many things and we know what works, what cannot work. We have seen leaders and we have heard them. You have an idea of what an individual stands for. And it is very important for people not to avoid history. Remember, when we were doing the campaigns, the former Prime Minister, Raila Amolo Odinga, would likes talking about history, where you are coming from and how we are likely to move forward. And one thing that we also missed about the KK and the UDA Brigade, they were very averse to history. You try and talk about history. Dr. William Samoei Ruto himself was saying, wachaneni na hii maneno ya historia, hii mambo ya wazee na waganga, dismissive. If you don't get to know a little bit about your history, you are likely to make mistakes that were made by others, and you don't run from those mistakes, which is one of the biggest mistakes that we did. We were warned. And there are many things that have been tried before, and we seem to be trying them again. If you look at today, we were told by those who were there that subsidies don't work. It is the wrong thing to do. Let the market forces work. Petrol prices went up to 217, 220. Then you introduce subsidies through another baptism name. We are now getting back to 190, 100 and something. And you now want Kenyans to come and clap for you because you have removed what you actually added. And if we do not clap, we are not being appreciative. We told you, give us time so that we can fix. So you first of all make things worse. Then do the same interventions that were done for things to improve. And you can actually see that, the dollar was at 119. Mess around with the dollar, it goes to 163. Make interventions, we are now back to 120. You want us to clap for you. But you collapse people's businesses, then you start trying to remove the taxes. The question that you ask yourself, and this is the thing, is which Kenyans is better off today than he was 2 years ago before elections? And the answer is, we are done. And I want to tell you something that I was out in the countryside for the last 7 days, non-stop. Something that I have not done in the last 2 years. And young people, I asked one young man, where were you 2013? He told me I was in PP2. PP2?
Yes.
Wow. He is voting next time. And this is, sitaki kujua mengi. But there are things that were happening when I was in school. My siblings are not enjoying them now. I am here doing this casual work because I need to help my brother and sister, whatever. I hear many of the messages have been created in the last 2 years. Wanasema, tunagojea hawa tutafukuza. Using their words. Something that is very, tutawafukuza na panga. Things have gotten to that level. So for us to ensure that we don't get to commit those mistakes, it's very important for always for us to know our history and to understand. If you look at the track record of the people, you cannot elect a person into an office, and especially those decision-making positions without a track record. I see the members of parliament here are vetting those who are going to represent us outside, like our envoys.
Yes.
What are they doing? They want to know the track record of an individual. I have no faith in what they are doing. Not that, they are the same ones who told us that they are not going to tax our avocados. And now they are saying the finance bill was too big like the Bible, so they never got to read out the whole of it. So you have, again, the same thing. You have seen how they have behaved in the last 1 or 2 years. I have no reason to believe that they are going to change in the coming 1 or 2 years. It is a done deal. We must organize ourselves differently.
So what are you saying?
Track record.
Okay.
The people who are in power.
Yeah.
We talked about them. Let me tell you, the same young parents are saying, I'm talking of what they were telling me last week. Mheshimiwa ulituambia. So we are not blaming you. Ulituambia ya kwamba ikitaturamba. We thought it was out of hate for somebody. We have seen it. The track record of a leader is very, very important.
So are you saying that for the next however long that Kenyans are resigned to this fate of the things that are going
for the coming 3 years?
We can't deny a number of things. We can't deny that in certain sectors that, there's a problem. Okay? And again, there are things that are currently hitting us in the face that whether you will look at the trimmings of agriculture and whether they will actually help with the fertilizer scandal that we see, whether we look at the health sector and then it falling to its knees with the strikes that we are seeing that are currently on, the education sector, infrastructure, we could go on and on. But then there's also the other side that we can't deny that, well, at least at some point something is being done. But are you saying that we are resigned, or that Kenya is resigned to this fate where there's always something going wrong at any given time for the next however many years of the administration?
I will be very interested and happy to be given examples of what is going right or what is being done anywhere in any sector, other than ensuring that the mess you introduced in the last 2 years is not the mess you are cleaning up. I see very well lit studio, one of the best lit studios that we have. Look at it. The power bill was pushed up by 67.7% in the last 2 years. The last couple of months, it's been brought down by 13.7%. Is that what you want me to clap for? You mess us up, and then when you try to go back to some normalcy, you want to tell me that there is any improvement that is being done? Zero. The number of businesses that have been closed, and especially within Mount Kenya region, the number of companies that are being wound up, the number of children who are not able to go to school, the number of people we have lost in this country because of mismanagement of the health sector, is enough to tell you that do not expect for anything else. A professor recently told me, a professor from Kimathi University told me, define a very small area, operate within that area for the coming 3 years. Do not try to overstretch yourself. Don't expect anything for the coming 3 years. And then let us all work together to ensure that we get ourselves from this mess of governance. That is why you'll find some of us, 17, 18, 20 parties, which have leadership from Mount Kenya region. They are national parties, but the leadership is from Mount Kenya region. We came together and we have decided to get ourselves together so that we can give people from Mount Kenya region an opportunity to come to what we are calling the Muru 3 and think ahead of how do we handle ourselves when another opportunity is given to us to pick leaders.
For what purpose?
When another opportunity is given to us to determine how do we manage our political affairs, economic affairs, our social affairs, because that is what elections is all about.
But again,
it is for the purposes of ensuring that we do not commit the mistakes that we have already committed.
So are we resigned to this faith?
This one is not- it's not
Are we resigned
resigned.
to this fate right now where we are seeing things happening in the way we are? Or is there an element of accountability that the people of Kenya can now say, okay, you know what? Things are not going as you said they would. As we then are given the right by the Constitution to say, look, hold on a minute, subservient to us, the sovereign, right? And they're not going well. We're demanding that they go right. Are you saying that we're resigned to this fate until new people come in?
I'm in support of a team of or a group of NGOs that have come together to try and see whether they can do something to Article 1, 2, 3 of the Constitution. And that is looking at the 3 articles through a court process to see whether we can even impeach those in power from the public, not from Parliament, because Parliament is already gone. It's not with us.
From what you've said, you said, okay, show me. I was looking, say, show me one thing that's actually going right. But I'm asking, are we resigned to the fate of what's happening at the moment? Or are we saying that, until a new crop of leadership comes in is when we will see any kind of change?
When you talk to investors, business people, and they tell you, please make sure you do not borrow. Don't try to put up a new building. Hold your horses. And that's the discussion in Mount Kenya. Hold your horses. Don't make any mistake of stepping outside an area that you can control. Is that Kenyans have given up on anything positive coming from the people in power in the manner of how can they improve their livelihoods. Things have gotten worse. Vijana wanasema ni kubaya. That's the word, ni kubaya. So in terms of trying to improve we can only expect them to try and clear some of the messes that they have put us in. In 10 months, we've borrowed 4.2 trillion shillings. In 10 years, we borrowed 10.6 trillion shillings. 4 months, 4.2 trillion shillings. 10 years, 10.6 trillion shillings. For the 4.2 trillion shillings, not a single project can be seen being implemented. Within the last 10 years, Kenya was like a construction site with those 10.6 trillion shillings. What we expected the next regime or the next government to do was to build on the infrastructure that had been put together by the Jubilee government. What are we seeing? Just abandonment, stagnation, a lot of money, and a lot of stealing of government resources. Kenyans have given up on these people. When I was here before, I told you that you will be dreaming to think that we are going to have UDA 2022. What you are seeing in Murang'a is nothing to do with fighting for positions within UDA. It is the relevance of the individual as they decide where else to go. The state we are in, it is upon us to exploit it or to make advantage of it. One good thing that has happened to us in Mount Kenya is that things are so bad that people have now concluded kube ni kweli hawezi pata kitu dunia ya watu. How can we organize ourselves differently? Given where we are, we must make sure that we don't commit the same mistakes 2027 if we get there. So it is now upon the few of us who can think together with the ordinary Kenyans and say, given what we have gone through, given the mistakes we made 2022, how do we organize ourselves to ensure that we don't do that next time?
How do you organize yourselves, Jeremiah, to know that the person that you select, I mean, sure, you can talk about a CV, you can talk about a track record, but how then do you know that the person that you select, the person who says, well, you know, I can do this for you or with you, will actually deliver on what they have said they will do? I think that would be the bane of the selection process for a lot of Kenyans.
And We in the region have now decided to come together in the form of Remuru 3, not to look for a political leader among ourselves. No. It is to identify the issues that we will need addressed by whoever comes into power, whichever groups comes into power, and those issues will then determine for us who is the best person to manage them. We do not want a person coming and making promises like were made, talking to our Mama Mboga and directly to our Mama Mboga. There's no problem talking to Mama Mboga directly, but making sure that you talk to Mama Mboga to the point that you can make serious promises to people, and because of the desperate nature that they are in, they are easily lied to. We have a people's initiative at Limuru, and the date is on the 17th of May this year, where we are going to have people coming from every county that has some presence of people from Mount Kenya. And this is not a meeting for us. It is so that we can also be able to know what are these issues that needs to be addressed for the young people. Let them know what are their experiences given the last 2 years, the women, the aged, the persons with various abilities and disabilities. Then we can then be able to say, this is what we would want any person coming to us to address. In our region, we have cried about the one man, one vote, one sharing. You may want to call it a mantra. But if that is addressed in our region, whoever it is that thinks can look at us in the eye and say, yes, the one man, one vote, one sharing makes sense to the whole country, not to our region alone, then we know. And then you put policies on the table that you are going to push through once you have that position. It is a kind of a person, that is a kind of a people that we want to have in office. The other thing that I think is also important is this, which we have also learned as a community. We have seen this even from the Somali community, because you have to learn from others. Somalis will come to Jubilee party. They are members of Jubilee. In fact, like today, one of the person liking Jubilee or trying to like Jubilee most is, and I have seen him here before, how I wish that you can call him so that we can debate him together, is Adan Kenan.
Okay.
He is from the Somali community.
We've taken that into note, yes.
Now, they are in every party in this country. They have no loyalty. They have only loyalty to their issues. So he is in Jubilee, he is pushing Somali issue. From the point of view of where they sat together as a community and agreed, this is what we want in our region. Sasa wenda pandeyo, kwendeni. We must approach, even us in Mount Kenya, we are going to have the similar approach. We will be together as a community. And again, we have a 9 million block. And I want to know who is it in this country who will be looking for the leadership of the country that can ignore a block of 9 million voters if they decide to work together. And that is what we want to start thinking through in Limuru. So if you then decide to go to whichever other party, remember the one man, one sharing, one vote. Just as one example. Remember, we are business people. We need the agriculture supported. We need education systems in our place differently. Don't just come and call us Walevi and call us Mogeki. That is what we have gotten from some of these parties. And Nigerian our 82-year-old mothers, and they are members of Mogeki. That is only done to a community that has lost respect in the country, that is being seen like they cannot organize themselves to have a single approach, a community that seems to have no regard for the leadership. And it is also important to know this, and this is what we have also we are also bringing to the table, that the kind of leaders we bring from our region will fight themselves in the National Assembly. National Assembly is where all leaders assemble in the nation, and they make decisions that affect the whole country. So if you contribute bad leaders from your region to the assembly, the decisions that are made by that assembly affect the whole country. We are not proud of the leaders that we put into Parliament 2022 as a region. We expected to have the kind of leaders that we had in the name of Paul Mwite, Gitofi Manyara. Those people who helped shape even the constitution-making process in this country. Which leader from Mount Kenya today can you pick out who can help us from that kind of a platform? Is it that we have learned out of those leaders? No. It's because we didn't organize ourselves well. And we allowed somebody to come around and say, we are going to form a government of Mama Boga and Boda. And we all were happy in the region, not knowing that if you don't have good leaders in the National Assembly, and they don't have to come from a given sector. I'm not belittling the Mama Boga and the Boda. They also have quality leaders. But if you do not get to understand them before they are picked by others on your behalf, then you end up with the mess that you are in. How do you explain when I sit in Muranga? I was in a constituency called Kigumo, called by these wazees, the Kiamas and the rest, in their goat-eating functions. And I'm seated there as a guest, and a member of parliament starts and says, we were seated at the avocado tree. And Mzee asks, you are telling me that I'm going to pay taxes because of this avocado? I have only two in this family. They are the only two trees. These are the only two trees that sustain this family. Education, food, health, ibitibiri. Is this what you now want to tax? And the member of parliament starts up and says, I want to say, we have even filed an amendment motion.
This was a live conversation?
Live.
Okay.
I have now put an amendment to the law, a lie, because you don't amend Finance Act in that manner. So he lies in the process of parliament. When I'm seated there, and I felt very bad, I didn't want to embarrass him also. But then he says that the only reason we didn't see it, because the Finance Act is a very voluminous thing. It is big as the Bible. It was again repeated by another member from the same area in another forum. So it's something that they have agreed on how to tell Kenyans. That the Finance Act is so big, you cannot read the whole of it. So something passed without. How on earth will I ever forgive you for you allowing taxation on my produce, and I elected you to go and ensure that I'm not taxed unfairly? What was the law? And then I still heard them saying that mbunge ako na kazi mingi, hawezi ona sheria. Kazi gine gani? Ya kwenda kuibaiba ama kwenda kurabaraba watu uko State House. You know, it's so stupid of the kind of leadership, the kind of statements that they are saying are so embarrassing to us that we cannot allow this to continue. So when we are at Lemuru on the 17th of May this year, these are some of the things that we need to address to ourselves too. How is it that we even lost an agenda for our region? How is it that we can survive with 35 political parties and they have no known position about the region? So we want these political parties to agree to work together on a given agenda. When you go to your own political party, this is now the agenda for our region. If you don't sign to that agenda, then we will ensure that you also have no business fielding candidates in that region. And I want to tell you, we are not interested in saying Kioni is running for presidency or Mother. No. Those who are saying that are fellas who have already roasted. It has nothing to do with coronation of leaders.
So we're talking about an agenda here that is actually going to talk about
from
political and economic development of what could come from regional to then nationwide, and say that these are the issues that actually must be discussed and be dealt with in the person of leadership at some point, at whatever level.
The intention is to create a forum where those who are already available can benefit the region. Let me just mention a name. You want to tell me that somebody like the CEO of Equity Bank has nothing he can offer to the region in terms of management or something? He doesn't need to become a political leader, but he has something he can tell you that when you have policies of this nature, the economy of your region will grow. You have people like Rainas Gitahi, who has been in this industry. He's running his own industries in tropical, whatever. So we have industrialists from our region who can actually guide us on the kind of policies that you should never, ever again allow, kind of taxation measures that you should never allow to come into place. Otherwise, you have no good intentions for your people. I was talking to one of the directors of Kenya Farmers, what is it called? The Farmers' Choice. And was saying the region through pig farming contributes about 3 billion shillings to the national kitty through pig farming, 3 billion shillings. Now they have brought this e-teams thing that they want every farmer be taking a pig to their factory to be charged another tax. Remember already, through Farmers' Choice, our region is taking 3 billion shillings. And you now have introduced another taxation at the gate, which you now want to tax the farmer again. And he's saying this is killing pig farming within Mount Kenya region. And it is true, because the farmer is saying, if you're already taxing me, you are buying maybe 60 shillings per pig, and because of the taxation that you eventually are going to pay to the government. And then the government again want to come and tax my 60,000, then afadhali niachane na hii maneno ya ukulima. These are some of the things, silent issues that are hitting us so hard. I do dairy farming. And one of the things I'm told, mimi, Kioni, ni kwamba I cannot do my own silage because I'm already doing, I have a formula of ensuring that I have quality silage that will give me better. I am told I cannot do that. I have to go and buy from a licensed agrovet. People in the industry will be able to tell you, you go through that route, it is the death of your people. And that is why we want this Limuru meeting. And it is a people's initiative. It is not by being called by the so-and-so in our community. Ni watu wenyewe na ni watu wajitolee. Hakuna mtu anakuja kuwalipa ati ufanye nini. Watu wajitolee, tukutane kule, tuelewane, mwelekeo wetu wa kibiashara ni upi. Hizi sera ambazo tumewekewa kwa meza na hawa ambao wako kwa serikali, tutaishi dunia hii miaka 3 ama ni kusema la kama wanadaktari. Sisi kama wanasiasa tunaweza kuaji na vyama 30 kutoka eneo moja. Kwa nini tusikubali hizi vyama siwe zinafanya kazi moja? How can we be able to make it possible for the parties to work together? So that even as we engage the others who want presidency or the leadership of this country, we are engaging them on a platform. How do you ensure that the 9 million vote block is available for anybody who wants it, but on condition that we are also on that table? Because how do you keep us out when you have a 9 million voting block?
Something that has always puzzled me, what is it that the Jubilee government did or didn't do in the mountain region that laid the ground for those who are now in power to actually be as convincing as they were?
We allowed the freedom of speech in an unfettered manner. And you don't have to check it by doing anything unconstitutional. It's by educating your people. We overestimated the ability of our people to sift through issues. And we allowed people to come and talk to all of them, and tulikuwa tunasema wacha waende waseme watu kutoka eneo hilo si wajinga watayawaelewa. There was a lot of lying and propaganda that we allowed to go to the ground without it being countered.
What prevented the leadership then from countering it?
It was that position of saying, watu wetu hii mambo wanaelewa. I want to confess here. I thought my voter, his intelligence level was to the level where he could tell some of these promises can never be done in this country. So we also had lost touch with our people. And it is important that we regain it. It is important that we gain the confidence of each other.
Was there realization that touch was lost? Or did the realization come after a number of the folks who were in positions of leadership did not come back?
No,
did that realization come at that juncture? Or when did the realization that the loss of touch actually occurred happen?
Every time you do an election, you also go through yourselves and see what did you do wrong and how can you improve it. That is something that we all agreed we went wrong after we did our election. I also say we also put a lot of premium on our religious people. I talked about my grandfather.
Yes,
he was among the very first people in that region to embrace Christianity and education. And through it, a lot of good changes have come about. Little did we know that it is also through the same route that the damage that we are now going through was going to come through. So there are people who have mastered us and used the same channels that we have used to do well up to where we are, and they use them to ensure that we are now looking like the beggars we are today as a community. And and we must be clear to one another. Then, of course, there are those of us who get into position, and all we do is enrich ourselves. You go to power for purposes of personal greed, and you fail to understand it is a privilege to serve others. That is another mistake that has happened big time. Even today, there are people who are telling us, kutakuwa kuzuri, and I'm sure you are not part of them when you are telling me to look at the good things that are being done. The good things that are being done are people now who are saying, nitafanya biashara na hii serikali mpaka wakati wa uchaguzi. And we have a number of those people from our region now. And they are the ones trying to tell you, itakuwa kuzuri, angalia petroli imeenda chini. Why? Because they are in business. But I am telling you the direction the region is going, we will be doing very, very poorly. If we don't organize ourselves now, we will never be around by the people in power or others to ever organize ourselves in a manner that we can make sense in this country. That realization is there. And that is why they picked on individuals and started, there are people who are in power on account of insulting others. From our region. I want to, and I can, again, I'm ready for a debate with Moses Kuria. And I want to commend him for having gone to Raila and giving a goat to say sorry. I don't know, I hope the goat is not anything near from Northlands, because some of the goats have still not been recovered.
Oh, SG, seriously?
Yes, I'm very...
Okay.
Yes, I want him, because I also know that where did the meeting take place? The meeting that organized for the lading of Northlands. We know. We have confessions of people who sat in those meetings. The same people who are now ready to say sorry, apologize, were the people who are organizing for those leads. Another issue that we want to address at the Muru 3.
Those are the things that you're talking about.
I wanted to say this. There are some of those leaders who are in power only on account of their ability to insult others. Insulting others has become a mark of quality, or a gate to power. When you take those kind of persons to parliament and you expect them to contribute to the national debate, then the whole country becomes consumers of the product from the same people. And it is not just our region, it's the regions across this country. I am not saying this for any whatever, but look at the kind of quality of leaders we get from Nyanza. I mean, I was in that parliament with Miri Othiambo, Otiende Omoro, Wadai, Nyikal. Every time they start to speak, you listen. Because even if it is any propaganda that they would want to push, they push it with some intelligence. And I'm not saying they push propaganda.
Well,
remember Kibaki saying
1 + 1 = 2.
Remember Kibaki saying even lying, even cheating requires intelligence. Anything you do requires some intelligence. So you want to tell us that we don't have? When you look at people passing at Glade, when we were doing this standard 8 thing, Form 4, we are always having schools from Mount Kenya at the top. But we also don't want people to keep telling us, like Ichungwa, I am a product of Alliance, but we are not seeing what you learned from an Alliance. And I'm not talking about Ichungwa, but it is not just a question of going. It's not just a question of going to a good school. It's a question of coming out with something from that good school and us seeing that it is benefiting people. So we really need to address ourselves to these issues, and it is only possible if we as a community have that self-retrospect.
But
and agree that we made mistakes, and one of the mistakes is that we let it too loose. 2022.
Take this view. Consider this view. When you say you believed in your people and you believe they would make the right decision, isn't there an element of then taking the voter for granted, assuming that the thinking is good, faith in the voter, but then how did it resonate? Because it honestly puzzles me, because how does the ground get laid? How is it prepared to the point where indeed your thinking was not out of thin air? No. If there's one area where the turnover of leaders is high, it's always the mountain. And people tell you, okay, we've seen what you're doing and we know you're not helping us. You're going out. Mm-hmm. Now, the thinking and your understanding, there's evidence to it. But for there to be such a dramatic change, it's like people needed to get back at people for some reason. Is it that they felt they were taken for granted? Is it that they felt that their interest was not being looked after? What is it? Why am I saying this? Because even if you have Limuru 3,
yeah,
and that gap is not properly addressed, there is no guarantee that come 2027 there'll be any real meaningful change.
And this is why we want to be guided by the issues. And I want to agree with you completely, because what happens is that you have the state of people, their needs are this much. For you to be able to satisfy that need, you need to do this much.
Right.
For you to
over and above, yes.
For you to do this much, you require X amount of time. So you need economic growth for a given time of given number of years for you to be able to satisfy the needs of people. So what happened? You have a population that is in need of so much, and you need this amount of time, and you are being realistic. For example, you say, let us have kazi kwa vijana so that people can have some money in their pocket as we grow the industries, or as we grow, we allow companies, the Rivertex and the rest, to grow their capacity to employ.
Yeah.
But somebody comes and says, no. You are in this situation because Serikali is a dynasty. Serikali. We now are going to have a Serikali of Mama Mboga na Boda Boda. You are the ones who are going to be in government. Your fortunes will change tomorrow. That's what happened. That's exactly what happened. And people said, hii wajinga wetu wanatuambia tukae miaka 10 hapa, na huyu amekuja kutuweka kwa serikali, kesho tuwe vitajiri, kwa nini tuachane? So they abandoned the wisdom of growing an economy which is sustainable, and fell to the lies of promises that you are going to be part of this government and your fortunes will change tomorrow. Today, Mama Mboga at Mairoine, a place called Mairoine is my constituency, is required to pay 200 shillings up from 20 shillings. 200 shillings up from 20 shillings.
To sell her.
The Boda Fera was paying 150 shillings. He is required to pay 900 shillings. They are all in court. And for that reason, the payments have been suspended. They will eventually be made to pay. So they were fooled into a thing that cannot work. But we also want to own up and say, there is a gap that we allowed to develop between those who could understand where we were going and how we were going there, and those who needed to be made to go with us along the journey. We hope some of these gaps, can be bridged by regular engagement. Limuru 3 is not us talking to them. It's also for them now to come and say, unlike before, because this is the silver in this lining, unlike before, we were lied to, and we can now tell lies between lies and what you are telling us.
Indeed. Look, I'm all.
You remember, like, for example, as I allow you to, I was talking about the BBI. BBI, in the BBI thing, there was an extra 54 billion shillings that was supposed to come to the region. And it was not being taken from any other person. No. It is money that was going to be allowed into the region so that people can grow their own economic activities. That money is gone now. It's not there. So you are right. That kind of, we need to do better so that people can understand that all these things were meant for them. When you talk about Edu Afia,
there's a lot. But,
for God's sake, Edu Afia, I can't believe that you can remove the insurance of a child in secondary school.
And this is why I'm saying that,
for whatever lack of a quicker example, go and use the money to renovate State House.
The encouraging thing here is that there are folks who are thinking about how things may be going and then want to be involved in a solution. I think before we've had a lot of throwing of words without action, and that to see that people will be coming together to discuss, I think it's interesting, and I'll be very interested to see how this will go into the future. Thank you for always being here, Secretary General.
I want to say this it is everybody is invited. You may not see the letter coming to you, but don't sit out there and say that you have not been invited by Kioni. I'm not inviting you. The mood is open for you. Come if you think you have something to offer.
Jeremiah Kioni, Secretary General of the Jubilee Party, has been our guest this hour. We've gone over about a minute. Thank you for being here this morning.
Thank you.
We'll talk again in the near future.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.